Residents in Beijing are drawing parallels between this latest cluster and the original outbreak in the city of Wuhan. Both reportedly originated in a seafood market. But we also know, because of its location here in southwest China, that this consulate acted as a key listening post for things happening in Tibet and in Xinjiang. But of course, Beijing has made it very clear that they've closed this consulate as payback for what's happened to the Chinese consulate in Texas.
Weeks of torrential rain have flooded the Yangtze and several tributaries.
The Three Gorges Dam is 181 meters high. That's about the same height as this 52-story white building behind me. Extreme weather has seen water levels inch closer to the dam's capacity. On Saturday, the volume reached 167 meters. From mortality and illness to media and power, these artists are helping audiences come to terms with what it means to live in an age of a modern pandemic. Britain's government says its decision has nothing to do with Donald Trump, but that hasn't convinced China. Officials here in Beijing say the UK is colluding with the US to oppress Chinese businesses. We're outside a school in downtown Beijing, and these students coming out here are among more than 10 million across China taking part in this year's National University Entrance Exams. The exams, known locally as the Gaokao, are said to decide a person's fate. We know that China's Standing Committee, its top legislative body, met at 9 a.m. Today on Tuesday to discuss this.
But analysts say the expulsion happening now is the worst attack on press freedom since the days of Mao Zedong.
And going forward, Beijing's message to the people in Hong Kong is that the buck stops with Beijing. The highest authority in Hong Kong is the Chinese government. And we see this manifest in the way this national law, security law is written. Chinese authorities are desperate to avoid a repeat of 1998, when extreme flooding left more than 4,000 dead and 15 million homeless. Before entering residential compounds or office buildings, people must first have their temperature checked. Those found with temperatures higher than 37.5 degrees Celsius must go directly to a hospital to be tested.
While closed borders have hurt the tourism and conference industry.
This is Beijing's biggest convention center, and during this time of year, it's usually overflowing with crowds of people attending international trade shows and conferences. But because of COVID-19, all of these events have been cancelled, and this venue has remained closed for months.
There seems to be a lot of confusion about how this is being implemented on the ground.
That's right. Well, we're not seeing a mass exodus as one might have imagined during the end of a 2-month lockdown. Quite the contrary. The government has said that they want this to be an orderly easing of the lockdown. Cautious was the tone. It's quite a sobering speech. I've got it in my hands here. 23 pages, which sounds hefty, but in fact, that's the shortest speech we've had from a premier in years here in China. And as you mentioned, sobering indeed. He talked about how the coronavirus had a huge impact on China. 6 months after Wuhan was first put into lockdown because of the coronavirus outbreak, it's back on high alert, this time due to flooding. Parts of the city are already submerged, and the government has ordered emergency reinforcements of the Yangtze River. China's leaders deny any cover-up and are unlikely to take responsibility for the spread of the pandemic. Instead, $2 billion is being pledged to the WHO, and China is also pouring millions into so-called mask diplomacy. China consumes half the world's pork, and during the Chinese New Year holiday, demand will be at its peak. To address the shortage, the Chinese government has embarked on a worldwide spending spree to buy more meat.
But many of those workers have now retired, and they're not being replaced.
China's population is aging fast. By the year 2030, about a quarter will be over the age of 60. And analysts are increasingly concerned that over the next few decades, there simply won't be enough workers to power the world's second largest economy.
Many of those taking part trained as Shaolin monks or were recruited from martial arts schools.
In ancient China, students trained in martial arts to protect their communities from bandits and other enemies. These days, it's more of a hobby. But these men say professional wrestling has given them a new way to turn their passion into a career.